Hey, I have had more than a few people ask me, how do you produce these teaser videos that you make for your podcasts? And I tell people, well, I have a little piece of automation that I wrote, and it really helps me save a ton of time. And, these same people are like, well, hey, how's this thing work? Tell me more. So this video is about how it works, kind of peel back the layers of the onion, so to speak, without getting too terribly technical, but to explain a little bit about a thought process, a little bit about the flow, and a little bit about how it works and how it helps me. So at the end of a podcast, what I have is a Zoom recording. I record the podcast. I use the audio from it. I don't use the video. So I've got the audio files from that. I've also got a headshot of the person. And then I also have a minutes file, and this is what that looks like. So I had a guest on a while back. Her name was Ange Dove. Really awesome. She's in the UK. Great lady. And what I did is, as we were having our episode, I would mark some times. I've got a separate thing. It's not in scope for talking about this, but I've got a separate little tool that I use to collect the interesting parts of the podcast and also where to split the podcast. I like to put a mid-roll ad right in the middle. So that line there, line 5, that says sponsor message, that's what that's about. So at the end of the episode, like I said, I've got a minutes file, a headshot, audio files for the recording. And where I want to get to is I want to create a teaser video, which includes a relevant background video, that person's headshot, 4 lines of text, an audiogram, like a waveform of the person talking, just because it freaking looks cool, and then a little progress bar that kind of goes across the length of the video, for the length of time that the video is, which is 30 seconds. So altogether, it just looks pretty cool. So just to kind of dig in a little bit about this piece of code here, this up here at the top, and this isn't nearly as complex as it looks like. This is just set up stuff to say, hey, here's where the podcast recording is, here's the person we're at, and just for the purposes of this demo, I put that together. But down here, I want to show you an example. So this little bit of code right here, repeat video to length. Okay, its sole purpose in life is to take the background video that I mentioned before and just make it be 30 seconds in length. Okay, so if we were to look at the actual code that this calls, look at this. Oh my goodness, there's so much stuff in there, and it's kind of ugly and it's hard to read, and we don't often know like how to come up with this on the fly. So my goal was, hey, I want to write this kind of ugly code once and then go hide the ugly and refer to it like with a little snippet like this. So in keeping with that, let's just hide the ugly. We'll just close that tab out. We don't need to come back to that. But just to walk you through the process a little bit, here's how the teaser is built. Okay, so first thing we do is we take that background video and we scale it down. We want to make sure that the resulting video is 1080 pixels wide by 360 pixels tall. Okay, so that's where we start. Then we crop the video. We pull the middle 360 pixels out of it, so that gives us a 1080 by 360 output. Then we repeat the video to a length of 30 seconds. That's what we looked at before. Next up is we process the actual audio file. So we're doing one of two things. We're either saying, okay, where is the most recent soundbite that we thought was really cool? Because as I'm doing this, I just want to have like the best one. If I'm partway through an interview and I'm like, that's pretty good, and then later on it's like, whoa, that's really good, then I want that one, okay? And then also pick out where the sponsor message goes in, okay? If we run across a sponsor message part, then that's where we split the audio file. We turn it into 2 halves. When I go to later on upload it to Anchor, I'll put 1 half in there, stick the mid-roll ad in, and then put the other half in there. Usually what I'll do is I'll pause a little bit during the episode just to, have a couple second pause for it to not chop somebody mid word and then they say the rest of the word after the break. Next up, we have extracting the soundbite. So in the audio file, the timestamp at which that interesting soundbite happened, I want to start there and pull 30 seconds of it out into its own file, and then create a waveform out of it, a certain color. I usually pick yellow, but by the time it runs that, then you have basically a waveform.mov file, which is, it's the waveform with the transparent background, and I use that to overlay onto the teaser later on. Next up, I overlay the headshot at a particular spot, and I have the person's name. In this case, it would be angedove.jpg. I overlay it at this XY coordinate, and then I overlay the text, which I use the same text for every podcast of this particular podcast. As I'm talking with person name on this podcast, here's the URL to the podcast. Then I overlay that waveform that we made before at a certain spot, and then I also overlay the progress indicator at a certain spot, and then it says, okay, the video length is 30 seconds. That says how fast to move the thing across the screen. And then by the time it's done, then we go ahead and create the final output and move it into a particular spot. So let's run that real quick and see what happens. Okay, all done. So I sped that up just a little bit because, we don't need to sit here and watch this whole thing. But the end result is we have an MP4. We have this teaser video here. And here's what it looks like. So end result is, yeah, you get a nice crisp teaser video with not a whole lot of trouble. And what I want to do with this eventually is I want to get to a point where if I offer this as a service to people, I want to have some standard formats. I don't know if you use Canva at all, but they've got a lot of different out-of-the-box formats for things that they do, or different components where you can like drag and drop stuff. I'm not looking for an interface where people can drag and drop things, but I am looking for something where I can offer, hey, what would you like? Here's a format, here's where the headshot goes, here's where the lines of text would go. Tell me your colors, give me your minutes file, and I'll just take it and run with it, right? I want to make sure that they're not having to invest a bunch of time in making their own teaser videos, but I also don't want to invest a ton of time in it myself, right? Because otherwise that would make the service increase a lot in price if I'm having to take a lot of time to do it. So that's basically the gist of it. I had a lot of fun putting this together, and I am excited about doing some different things with this. But if you're watching this and you've got some feedback about what you would like to see in a tool like this, if you were to hand this off to somebody else to say, I really need teaser videos, but I just don't have the time to use a tool like Headliner or anything else like that. I want it done for me, right? What would you want to see in a tool like this? And let me know. I would love to hear your feedback, all right? Well, thanks for watching. I hope you have a good rest of the day. Take care. Bye-bye.